Hello and welcome to the Larger Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 63. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm David.
I'm Pawel.
Are we going to comment on this again?
No, I think we've done it right this time.
That was a treat for the listeners last week. Let's not
just this recurring
drag it
joke.
out.
There's basically four of us, yeah? We have 3 cups of tea and 1 bottle of water.
We've actually got 2 bottles of water.
All right.
I've got a backup liquids.
Okay, yeah, so we're moisturised for you.
So this is a video games episode in our gaming podcast, and this week we've got some delights. We've got some delights to talk about, boys.
But Chris is very happy with his game this week.
Well, look, I'm just going to say this, right? There's been a long time since I've been very happy with all the games that I'm playing, and right now I'm absolutely delighted. Like, I just... Like, you know, like sometimes you sit and play like video games, like you buy a video game and you sit and play through it and you sometimes feel like you're just kind of playing it to pass the time or whatever. You're enjoying it, but it's not like, you know, taking over your life or anything like that. But right now, everything that I'm playing is just absolutely delightful. I will say. I will use the word delight. Yes, it's lovely stuff.
It's good to be Chris just now.
Not my words, you, and the words of Shakin' Stevens. That's an Alan Partridge joke for all you Partridge fans out there. Yeah. So, I'm playing 3 very, very different games right now as well. One we talked about last video games episode, so Fortnite, and specifically the Battle Royale mode in it. Like, now they've added squads into it this week, so you can now officially play as a squad without being banned for cheating.
With your squad.
Aye. And me and one of the guys I play with is our friend's brother. Me and him managed to get second place in the squad thing the other night there. Second, it was only the 2 of us as well.
That's pretty good. Yeah, like, how many squads were there?
Well, it depends, because you can go in, it's up to a squad of 4, but you can go in with less than that if you want. And you don't have to fill the squad up, but it still tries to fill the game up to 100 players. So there could be squads of 2, 3, 4. And we were a squad of 2 and we got second place.
Nice. Hiding in bogs again.
And it was just one of these stupid things. The way that we died was just so stupid, innit? It was one of these, like, I walked out, I got shot by a rocket launcher, and I'd said, you know, to the guy who was playing, I was like, right, be careful, there's a guy with a rocket launcher, and he just went running out, like, where? I was like, no! Don't do that! But one of the things in the squad mode is that if you go down, your teammates can get you back up.
Okay. And
you've got a sort of time period, or if somebody keeps shooting you, then eventually you do just die, and you're out. Right. And once you're out, that's you out of the game completely, and your squad has to go on without you. So you can sit and watch them stealing your glory. But so Fortnite's one of them. The other game is one we're going to talk about later. Dave, you're going to help me with that one. But the game that I'm playing right now, the main one, which is probably no surprise to anybody, is Divinity Original Sin 2. Me and Pawel, we have sat and talked about this, argued about this for a while, because I'm saying that this is quite easily, and I say easily, one of the best RPGs ever made, and Pawel disagrees with me on that.
I think I disagree on what an RPG is, and computer RPGs are essentially all about what this game is about, so I should probably shut up, but I won't.
Well, I think they're very different things, because you do get different types of RPG, and this is much more in that sort of... What would you put this in the boxes? I mean, it's an isometric style game.
Yeah, there's been definitely a revival of this particular style of RPGs, which is a great thing, by the way. Thank you very much. Pillars of Divinity and all this.
Pillars of Eternity. Pillars of Eternity?
Divinity!
No, Divinity Original Sin.
Pillars of Eternity.
Pillars of Eternity.
That's what I said.
For Pillars of a Divinity, the mashup game.
The mashup game would probably be just as impressive.
But I mean, it's kind of similar in that sort of style as when you go back to Baldur's Gate and stuff like that. Yeah. And mechanically, all kind of as complicated, because Baldur's Gate was a D&D game, which very much use D&D mechanics. And this is a very, like, Divinity Original Sin 2, and this is one of the reasons why I think that you had a bit of a problem with it. Turns out it's not, but it's a very mechanical game. There's a lot of like stats and skills, and especially the combat in it is very tactical and very much about spending action points and overcoming armor points and all these kind of things. But it turns out that you just actually hate the story and the setting.
The setting, I had a similar problem with Divinity 1, where I started playing, sort of enjoyed things, although some shells were talking to me and things like this, and then I encountered a time, warping goblin or something at the end of the world,
yes,
and there were prophecies, and I just disconnected. So I'm trying to enjoy this.
But why, though? Why would you disconnect from that? I mean, it's a fantasy game, and you kind of have to expect those kind of things in fantasy games.
No, but the thing is, the way I enjoy fantasy is when it's grounded. Man, it has to have rules, its own physics and chemistry.
Fantasy and grounded.
Yes.
They don't really mix well.
No, but the thing is, you either have your fantasy or you have your fairy tales. And this is a fairy tale with talking slugs and...
But that's what fantasy is.
No, but the thing is, that's exactly what fantasy isn't. This is what fairy tales are. And fantasy is when you have... I don't know, scheming houses in Game of Thrones, backstabbing each other, and maybe occasionally a dragon that still can be killed and flies because it has wings.
So you're saying it has to be Game of Thrones?
Yeah, but because that's
right. No, it's just Game of Thrones is what it is.
You're saying it has to be grounded.
Well, it used to be grounded, yeah.
And yet in Game of Thrones there's a zombie army. There's people that can bring each other back to life and buff their swords with fire.
Right. Well, some good buffing
as we go through the seasons,
Dennis Pennis can buff swords.
Game of Thrones is definitely becoming more fantasy-like, yes. And the last season is not the best example. My point is, you want it to be at least a little bit believable.
I kind of like because I remember that opening thing from Divinity kind of blowing my mind a bit. I was like, this is a good... No, I'm totally on board with this concept. You're being sent back from the end of the world to the... And that's a brilliant idea. And there's some great... I'm not like massively into fantasy as a genre, but I've read a few random novels. Raymond E. Feist, his Magician series of novels, like that has a lot of that kind of like strange metaphysics and kind of bizarre parallel universes and things like that, and like incorporated into it.
Yeah,
and I like that in fantasy. I like where you can play around with the reality of it, and still have all of the other the more grounded aspects of it. But it's nice to throw in some cool, like some more out there ideas.
Yeah, aye. I mean that's. I don't know, like, because I still don't understand Pawel's argument here,
right.
to be honest.
Okay,
like,
let me put it
I get what you're saying, Euan. You're like, I'm with you. I'm on board with that, right? But Pawel, no, I'm not getting it. How can you? I just don't get the argument that fantasy needs to be grounded, because then it's not really fantasy. It's just medieval fiction. If that's what it sounds like you're looking for.
Yeah, that's even more boring than fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be able to connect with your setting. If there's no rules you can understand, then the world just falls apart. That's
I don't know, because it's the whole suspension of disbelief thing, though, isn't it?
It's that's exactly that.
You have to just let yourself accept it. I mean, it's always it's like one of my favourite things I say about whenever something weird happens in fantasy. It's like a wizard did it, and we had this discussion about sci-fi, didn't we? Like a few episodes back.
The same rule applies to sci-fi. It has to be grounded.
But it's not, because it's science.
That's why Star Wars is actually bad science fiction.
Alright, okay. Go for the controversy.
Your
face turned red after you said that there. You know
you're crossing the line when you do that.
Pawel's going to get some hits. This is going to be good. Controversial statements.
We're going to open the mailbag next week, I think. That's what's going to happen here. Anyway, let's just get back to Divinity. So, Euan, actually, this might be good, because you've only seen very small bits of me playing Divinity 2, but you did play a little bit of Divinity 1.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think of Divinity 1? Just kind of just quickly as an overview of the game itself.
I thought it was like had nice gameplay. I quite like the turn-based sort of combat thing. Yeah. I guess Divinity 2 seems a wee bit more complicated in that respect.
It's the same combat system.
Yeah.
But they have added some things on top of it, and I'll maybe get to that in a minute.
What I played of it, I definitely enjoyed more than the kind of more hack and slash stuff that like the Diablo or something like that. It felt a bit more meaty, you know. There was you were more involved. There was actual characters.
Yeah.
It felt like characters, you know, and like people you could speak to. The town wasn't just like some place for you to go and muck about with your inventory. It was like, you know, it was a living, breathing kind of place. So that I definitely enjoyed about it.
And that's, like I say, and that's pretty much like, I mean, it's, what am I trying to say here? Divinity 2 kind of takes all of those things,
Yeah.
and just builds on it, and it streamlines some things, and it's made some things just better. And in particular, I think what you're saying about the characters, they've kind of made the whole interaction thing a lot nicer. It's a lot cleaner. They've seemed to have got rid of that whole rock paper scissors thing that was weird in the
Yeah, well, that was kind of what we were having difficulty with. There's just certain aspects of it where just didn't seem to be getting the game.
In the first game, if you were if you had the two characters and you could pick their personalities at the start of the game, and if they ever disagreed about anything, you played rock paper scissors to see who would. And
that resulted in some kind of bad stuff happening to us quite a lot of the time.
But they've kind of got rid of that in this. They've got a kind of a nice little thing where there's basically 6 pre-made characters now, and they range from just like your sort of human ranger wayfarer type character to like an elf rogue to, you know, classic sort of tropes that you have. And you've got a sort of lizard man. Like they've added in this new race as well, a couple of new races. In fact, I can't even remember if there were there any elves and stuff in the first one, or lizard men or anything like that? Because
I certainly didn't encounter them at that point.
Is there any actual like setting similarities between the first and the second one?
It is set in the same world, but it's set like I think it's either hundreds or thousands of years in the future.
Okay.
So it's set long after the first one, so much so that you don't need to play the first game in order to play the second one, because it just, while they're set in the same world, they're not linked stories really. So you don't really need to know anything about the first game. If that's one of the worries about whether you're going to get this game or not, you don't need to know about it. Anyway, so you have all these, like you've got a lizardman sort of fighter, and you can play as any of these guys. Like there's an undead wizard and stuff like that as well, which is pretty cool. They've added in the ability to go an undead version of whatever race you want as well, and as long as you keep your bones covered up in towns, nobody really notices. But as soon as you like take your helmet off, or take your trousers off or something in the town, which taking your trousers off is probably an offensive thing anyway, but if somebody took their trousers off in front of you and it was just bones underneath, you'd probably freak out even more. So you're gonna get some negative reactions. I went on elf, mainly because they've done something nice with the elves, because one of your complaints, Euan, about fantasy things is that they just tend to have the same shit with all the different things. Elves are fucking airy fairy.
This sort of like the general Lord of the Rings kind of stuff.
I've got a Cockney elf,
yes.
And the elf race can eat dead people's limbs and stuff in order to see their final memories.
Oh, right.
Which is a really fucking cool thing.
Interesting.
And what the first sort of elf woman you encounter is one of the people, the pre-made characters. So you can encounter these pre-made characters as you're playing the game. If you don't play as one of them, all 6 of them are in the game basically.
Right.
So if you play as one of them, that person isn't in the game for you to meet.
Okay.
But you're playing as them, and you get unique conversation choices. But when you meet this elf woman for the first time, she licks your arm. Just like, oh yeah, let me see your arm. Just like licks it and like, ooh,
interesting.
Just like really and she's the rogue, and she's a bit weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've added in like a whole lot of things so that when you create your character, if you make your own character, you get tags to pick from. They're almost like hashtags. So it's like you're a hashtag scholar, and then you get unique conversation options when you're talking to people in this game when you've got these tags.
Right.
And even your race is relevant. So if you're talking to another elf, you can use the elf option in the conversation thing to actually say something, that only elves would really know about, or something like that. I say something elfy. So yeah, there's a lot more depth to the actual personalities of the characters and the conversation options you get and all that kind of thing. So much so, and this is a weird thing actually, because this is something that I never say when I'm playing games these days, is that I'm already planning for a second playthrough of what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
right.
It sounds like the kind of game it would do.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing for me to say. Because I never do that.
Do you ever complete games?
Well, I very rarely finish games, especially very, very long games. I tend to just get sort of I get to a point where I go, right, I've got the feel for that, but I feel like I'm going to finish this one, and I feel like I'm probably going to start it again and go somebody completely different and see how that changes what happens in the game. Because so far I've been doing the whole save scumming thing, but it's mainly just as a test. I want to see what happens if I choose different things, choose different paths, decide to, instead of being nice to this guy, start arguing with him instead. And very, very different things do happen. And that's pretty incredible. And this is one of the reasons why I'm surprised that Pawel hasn't been getting into it.
And I fully agree that this aspect of the game deserves praise, because Divinity 2 is doing things no other RPG has done in terms of gameplay depth and just its massive sheer of options available. I fully agree. It's just, for me, the deal breaker is usually if I don't get the setting. That's so it's my own thing.
I mean, I think the setting's quite interesting. I mean, the whole thing about the sorcerers and all that. I mean, the start of this game, you're basically a prisoner who's been taken to an island, and this isn't really like I'm not ruining anything for anybody. This happened straight at the start of the game. You're getting taken to an island, which is Fort Joy, it's called. I'm pretty sure it's an island. Because I've not actually left it yet. That's the thing. I've played, I don't know, maybe about 10 hours of this game. I'm still just messing about on this island. And yeah, you're taken as a prisoner, and because you've been tagged as a sorcerer, basically a bad bastard, but not really. It's just that it's people have got the fear of these people because they feel that these people are drawing all these monsters to them. So you get a collar put on your neck to stop your sorcery abilities from coming through, and you're basically there, but you're wanting to escape. And I don't know. I mean, did that story just not grab you at all, Pawel?
Oh, it did. That's why I started playing it. I went through the entire ship part of it. Met some characters, didn't particularly feel like they were met tropes essentially, or just characters that were a little bit way over the top, much more so than I like. Got to the sort of island parts and started wandering about. Met some mutated animals. Again, just sort of tropes, and I don't normally have anything to do against it, but I just didn't. I don't know. I'll keep trying. It's not like I'm, saying I'm not going to play it.
But you say keep trying. I mean, are you constantly starting a new game?
I've attempted to play this game ever since beta started.
But have you constantly started a new game though?
Yeah.
Right. Don't. Get through that first bit. Get through that first bit, Pawel. Get into Fort Joy. Then start wandering around talking to the people. And I feel that that's the part that will grab you, because I think that's when you start to meet interesting people who have stories to tell.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
And yeah, there are a lot of tongue-in-cheek things in it, and a lot of it. Some of it is a bit silly, but I welcome that.
I know you do.
But no, and it's not so much. It's because it keeps it interesting. It's because it keeps you interested. Like, you're not just reading. Like in Skyrim, when you can, or any of the Elder Scrolls games, you can run around and pick up books and you can read the lore and all that. But it's so tedious after the
po-faced sort of. There'll be.
It's like you go into a town and you go into somebody's house and it's like, oh, here's 5 books I haven't read yet. So you spend the next 10 minutes just reading books, and then you're just like, well, that was all very interesting, but I'm going to now go up to the shopkeeper and put a bucket on his head because. Because you need to break that tedium up a bit, Like, and this game kind of does that for you. Just that you meet people that are a bit stupid, If you've got the pet pal ability, you can speak to animals, and doing that is quite funny. You get a dog that constantly tells you he loves you, just because you rub his belly and stuff. It's like, it's just like little things like that kind of break up the seriousness of like tactical combat, and looking and going through people's skills and stuff like that, and seeing if everybody's tooled up and blah blah blah. Yeah, you do need something that's going to break that up a little bit, and I feel that this game does it perfectly. It's got the balance just right.
I think that balance is in various places depending on who you are, so it might be just
But I do need that though. Like I do need that, and I will.
You
admit
do,
that.
yes. You search for it even if the game doesn't have it. You're gonna play a perfectly serious game like Deus Ex. I mean, serious to the point of having absolutely no laughs, and you'll still find a way to entertain yourself in it. No,
they set that game up so that you could do stupid shit in it. Come on.
You're not supposed to.
You back me up here, man.
That's the game where you can punch people.
Yeah.
Deus Ex. Yeah, that's what I spent my entire time doing. I mean, that was the best face-punching game I've ever played.
Totally. Some of the face-punching.
If they didn't want people to do that, they did it wrong.
You should have made this such a beautiful punching mechanic.
Those little mini cutscenes that you get when you go and sneak up behind somebody and punch them in the back of the head.
Well, obviously, you're supposed to do that,
I mean,
yes.
so some of the most epic, like, gaming story moments happened in that game. It was like head of the Council of Elders, and he's like, "Thank you very much, Adam. You've helped us immensely with this problem that we had." And you're like, "Yeah, you're welcome, Councillor." And then it ends the conversation, and then you punch him in the face. You don't get that in any other game.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Dave, you're quite similar to me in the way you play these games. Where was I?
So what about Divinity?
What about Divinity? I mean, right, okay, so fair enough, Pawel, right? We'll talk about a couple of the other things that I've personally done to make this game amusing. So one of the things you can do is if you find buckets, you can wear them as armour.
In fact, you have to. That's your first armor.
Well, it's the first helmet that you find, basically, as a bucket. So I had a bucket head squad just running about for ages, and I was so proud of it. I was just so proud of the fact that all of my guys were all just wearing buckets on their heads.
I think this was the moment when you knew this game is for you.
But also, because of the combat in it is so in depth, and that's probably one of the biggest things in this game. Something that Divinity the original game was known for, and they've kind of expanded on it a bit here. Like I say, it's still the same combat system, but it's so tactical, and there's so much stuff you can do. Like your different classes, you get things like geomancy skills and pyromancy, warfare and scoundrel and hydrosophist and all these things, and they're basically just all different skill.
Groups.
Not trees, groups. Yeah, groups. That's the word. And they'll all let you do various things. So maybe your geomancy thing will let you throw a big rock that covers a place in oil, because rocks are fully oil. But then you can get somebody that's got the pyromancy skill and then set that oil on fire, and then that just burns for ages, and people running through it will go on fire. And you can do all these things where you can set situations up. And if something we were talking about earlier was that you can't go into this game swinging. Like, you can't go into a fight in this game if you're playing it in the classic mode or whatever. Because they're different modes. I won't explain that too much. But yeah, if you're playing it in classic mode, the way it's supposed to be played, combat's difficult. And you really need to get an upper hand somehow in a fight, because you can't just go in and just start swinging at people. You will just die, especially early in the game so far, I've found. So you do have to try and set things up so that you get an upper hand. So yeah, covering something in oil and setting it on fire and forcing them to run through it, forcing your enemies to run through it and burn themselves is, one way of getting an upper hand. There's various different things you can do. But there's all these different things. I've gone polymorph. Yes, I went to polymorph class, which is a new class in the game. It's a new set of skills, and one of the things you can do is a tentacle lash, which is one of the first skills you get, and it does a good chunk of damage, but it causes atrophy, which means that the person you've used it on can't use any of their weapon skills for the next turn, which is really useful. So it's all these little things like that. But one of the things I have done is I've petrified a door. So,
and that shows the strength of the game. So how many different things you can do.
It's because you don't just have to do these things on people. If you want to petrify a door, you petrify a door. This game will allow you to do it.
Yeah, the door essentially has its own hit points. You can hit it with your fists until you break it if you don't have lockpicks and things like this.
You mean you turned it to stone?
I petrified it,
or just made it really
it was an ability. I turned it to stone.
So I was just...
It was only for a limited time, though. It stopped being stone after a while. But that's just one of the things that you can do in this game. It wasn't deliberate, it was just a byproduct of the attack I did. It was just that door's petrified.
And byproducts like this, there's a lot of stuff. You're gonna start chunking your fireballs around, and suddenly everything is on fire. There is a torch somewhere, something's spilled, something else gets on fire.
I do like games where they pay attention to some of those little details. I always loved the fact in Demon Souls and Dark Souls where you could dual wield shields.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was so happy when I discovered that. I was like, you could single wield a shield, and it had a special animation. You could hide behind it like you were cowering from a dragon. And then I was like, oh, what happens if I try both? Surely not. Yep, Absolutely, you can dual wield shields. It's like completely
I don't think
useless.
I ever tried that. That's
I can't
amazing.
believe I didn't think it.
Yeah, you should have done that.
Oh.
You should have done that when you were playing with Neil, Euan.
Oh yeah, he would have loved that.
You say loved, he would. I hated it. One of the other things that one of the other skills I'm really loving in Divinity 2 is the teleport spell. I'm finding that's just incredible for getting enemies miles away from you. So like they come running straight at you, let their tank come running straight at you, teleport them up onto a platform, like just get them out of the way.
Well,
And then he spends the
control.
next battlefield control, and it's one of these things again, getting the upper hand.
Yeah.
He spends the next 2 turns running back down from that platform to get back to you,
Yeah.
and then you just teleport him back up there.
And the game seems to be focusing on it because there's a couple different classes that have skills aimed at manipulating or changing various substances that can be spilled on floors. So you can, if you stand on oil, then you can use your magic to change, for example, a burning object into a
An oil
puddle of
soaked one.
oil,
Yeah.
and then burn it again. Just watch yourself, because if you burn yourself and whilst doing something, obviously you take damage as well.
Yeah, combat's a playground.
Yeah.
Combat is a playground in this game, and it's excellent. It's a breath of fresh air. I mean, it's like I say, it's gone even further than Divinity 1 did, and it is a breath of fresh air. Just having the option of being able to do all these different things is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. And one of the things I've added in this, which is different from Divinity 1, is that in order to when people are wearing armour, you get 2 different types of armour. It's physical and magic. So if you attack somebody, you start wearing down their physical armour first. It doesn't actually take any of their health off.
Right.
So once you actually get their physical armour level down to 0, then you can start taking their health off. But then you tend to find that these people that are sort of set up to be tanks have, or if they have a shield even, they have a shields up ability, which lets them get some of that shield level, the armour level back up, which is pretty cool. And one of the things that they did add in this as well is that you do have abilities that are tied to weapons. So my main character uses 2-handed weapons, and when he's wielding a 2-handed weapon, he gets an all-in skill, which he doesn't have if he's not wielding a 2-handed weapon. He doesn't get that skill. And they come with the weapon, so if I gave that weapon to somebody else, they would get the all-in skill instead. It's not just something that's tied specifically to a class or anything like that. It comes with the weapon. So the shields up thing comes with shields, and it's pretty cool the way that they've done that. So it gives you some sort of like uniqueness to your weapons rather than just it does this amount of damage. I mean, right, I've talked about this for now 25 minutes or so.
And it's mostly combat.
And it's mostly combat.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I think the combat was the big focus in Divinity 1, but it feels that they've put a lot more time and attention into the actual depth of the characters and the story and the conversations and, the multitude of different outcomes of all those things that you can do when it comes to quests and all these things and conversation options. It seems that they've put a lot more time into that compared to Divinity 1, and there's just a hell of a lot of depth there now. And yeah, like I say, it's been like, critics everywhere are saying that this is one of the greatest RPGs ever made, and I will not disagree with them on that. This is, so far, even if I'm only 10 hours in, one of the best games I've played in a long, long, long time. Probably going to be one of my favourites of all time so far. So that's high praise from me. High praise from me. I hate games.
Well, we established this the other week. We all hate games.
We all hate games.
Well, I'll keep trying, and maybe I'll manage to like it.
You will like it, Pawel. You will. We should play multiplayer. There is multiplayer in this. Up to 4 people.
Yeah, but I have to start liking something solo before I pull it to... Man, it's just...
Okay, well, let's move on. So, Pawel, now you don't have to sit and be defensive about anything. We're going to let you talk about something, and we'll try not to interrupt them this time, but guys, right? We won't stick a roar in.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yes.
Tell us about... Oh, sorry. Before we finish that, I should probably give the details of Divinity, because that's by Larian Studios. And it came out in 14th September 2017 on Microsoft Windows. I don't know what the deal is with whether it's coming out on consoles or anything, because Divinity 1 came out on the PS4 at least.
Yeah.
Because that's what me and you played it on.
Was it PC originally?
It was PC originally, so maybe there will be console console versions further down the line, but I don't know yet. There's nothing mentioned so far, as far as I can see. So yeah, Pawel, tell us about Echo, the dolphin.
There you go. See, I wanted to point out here that a promise has been made. I can actually review this in peace. So I'm going to say here, I'd like to talk about a game called Echo.
ECCO.
ECHO.
Okay.
ECHO.
All right.
Thank you. Right, Echo.
Was that a joke?
No.
That was good.
That was good, yeah.
So, Echo is a science fiction stealth crawler made by a company called Ultra, and it's been already released on Steam and, well, basically for PC. And soon enough, I believe in October, is going to get released on consoles. Well, PS4, definitely. And it's another game that's been receiving high praise, although for completely different reasons than the game we just talked about, because this game is actually very serious, which is what I like. I also like immersive mood in games, and it's been a very long time since I've encountered a game that sucked me in so much. I didn't even fully expect it, because nowadays you sort of know what games to wait for. You hear about games well in advance, you maybe see some trailers, and this just took me by surprise. I just saw it on Steam, read 3 sentences of a description, clicked on it, and I've been playing it ever since. It's brilliant. First thing we should probably say about Echo is that the game doesn't feel like a AAA, but this is actually a good thing. It feels like it's been made with less resources that developers have nowadays, but the way they've utilized those resources is absolutely brilliant. Any enemies you'll ever meet in this game look exactly the same as you. You play, your protagonist is a girl called N, voiced by Rose Leslie. So she was actually on Game of Thrones. She was the nothing wildling.
Oh
person.
yeah.
And
Ygritte,
yes, and she's brilliant. So obviously, yes, a third person. So you have your own character running around a labyrinthine sort of, I'm going to say a planet, but it's called the Palace. And any enemies you see around you are echoes of you. Same with all the maps or all the stages, let's call them, that you get to see. It feels like they made using mostly the same resources, the same objects that are just arranged in a multitude of different ways. And what they've managed to do with it is just astonishing. I can't. Every single stage I see looks different. Just imagine a sort of like a very ornate, royal palace, I suppose is a good word here. It doesn't really have a feel of a space station or anything like that. The sci-fi element comes mostly from your dialogue with the AI of the ship that brought you to this planet, and most of storytelling comes from the dialogue you have with this AI as well. So what you see around you is this very alien-looking labyrinth filled with essentially your clones. What this game does is it just learns from you how to kill you. From your actions, the echoes of your character gain their own abilities. So if you crawl through a stage, hide somewhere, then yes, the echoes will learn that they should actually be crawling as well. And their patrols will change slightly. They will get an ability to maybe crawl somewhere where they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. If you pick up a weapon, the echoes will learn, we can pick that weapon, we can kill you with it. If you start running, they will eventually realize, yes, we can run and catch you. you do have a pistol, but there is very little shooting in this game. You can shoot, but then echoes will have pistols, and you're cooked.
That sounds slightly terrifying.
Yeah.
This game, I should also say, the level design, but also the mood, the atmosphere in the game is reminds me a little bit of what I thought Prometheus would be before I got disappointed by the film. But the whole design in Prometheus was very sort of monumental. Everything was big and alien. This game has a similar feel. And yeah, you just keep. It's very tense. You are very fragile. You can sort of push away an echo if it catches you, but only once. If it catches you again, or if there's 5 echoes around you, you're done for. Because you can push it away, but then your health is essentially done for. You get caught again, you're dead, and that's that.
So is there any explanation? You're not trying to kill them. They're all after you. You're just trying to get through.
You're attempting to go through the palace. There is. I don't want to give out too many spoilers, so I'm just going to say that N, the protagonist, has reached this artificial planet called the Palace for a number of reasons that are related to the cult she's from, I should say, or maybe a family, let's call it, the way she was brought up and what she believes in, but also because she's trying to resurrect a guy named Foster, who's been translated into a cube. Now, there is a lot of science fiction jargon in the game, and when I say translated, it should really mean that his body, and I suppose everything else, has been what's the word in your game then? Transmogrified, yes?
Pawel, I'm having a really hard time getting to grips with this setting because it's unrealistic. It's not grounded at all.
It's very alien, and that's the way.
I might be calling you a hypocrite here.
I know what you mean. But
well, what kind of cube?
A red kind.
I don't. What?
Right, let me put it this way.
Sorry, that's a bit much for Dave. That's beyond the pale. All right.
Anything but a red cube.
However, the I suppose a caste possibly called the resourcefuls that your protagonist belongs to. However, they were or are still attempting to reach immortality. However this works, I have not fully found out yet because I'm 20 hours into the game and I have a feeling I'm getting slowly to the last act of it. But translating a person essentially means killing them and possibly storing their mind in an object. We've seen that in science fiction.
It's a very common theme, being turned into a cube.
It's Superman, wasn't it?
Is there not a film called The Cube?
Yeah, there is. Aye.
There's also the sphere.
Remember the feel in the cube. There is a little bit of this atmosphere and Echo as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Is this game like level based? To talk about gameplay a little bit, because how do you progress through this game? Is it a series of stages? Shall we say?
You could say there's stages because there's usually going to be some elevator that you'll manage to unlock, reach, and then progress to another stage. But the palace itself reacts to everything you do. So if you kill an echo, the palace sort of examines how you did it, and you get your sound cues as you go through various rooms. As soon as you've done something, you can crouch, and if the palace detects, you know what, my echoes don't have it, you'll hear a little sound that tells you that in about 30 seconds there's going to be a blackout. Okay. As soon as a blackout comes, the blackout is your time to do things without having to worry about palace detecting what you're doing. So you can run around or shoot without worrying about echoes learning that. And then after that, the power is back on, and echoes essentially resurrect. All of them rise back up, and they have their new set of abilities.
Right, that's pretty cool. So this learning of your abilities, does that happen within a stage and then it's reset, or does it happen across the entirety of the game?
Well, just stages, but it's the cleverness goes to yourself actually planning your actions. You can think to get somewhere, you might just open a door, but you know that as soon as Echoes at the moment cannot do it, so as soon as you do it, you're on the timer. You don't see this timer, by the way, but you can hear it. Whoever composed sounds for this game is a bloody genius, and they're really scary as well. Eventually a blackout comes, no matter how far you've progressed, obviously, and you know that that after the next blackout, Echoes will be able to open doors. But you can also, during the next stage, during the next phase, the blackout has happened, the power is back on, you know that Echoes can open doors. If you, during that particular phase, let's say, do not open doors, and you force the palace to reset, then during the next phase, the Echoes will not be able to open doors again. So you can, if the Echoes have upgraded to a terrifying stage of being able to shoot you or sprint behind you, open doors, bridges, manipulate lifts, you name it, you probably want to stop and maybe try and force the palace to reset again by stealthily killing an Echo or two, maybe doing something as soon as you can hear, there's going to be a reset. You don't want to do anything extravagant, and then after reset, the Echoes will be slower again.
Sure. So it kind of ebbs and flows, the kind of learning.
Yeah.
Is there any like time pressure on you?
No.
Because otherwise it sounds like you just want to go really slowly.
Yeah.
Based on what...
stealth games tend to force you to go slowly, and you want to be careful, but there is no real there is save points in the game, but sometimes this game actually tends to be quite manic, and this is actually what I really like about it. Most stealth games that I played in the past were either trial and error stuff or just very slow games, whereas in here there is so many Echoes around you quite often that and the game isn't so much punishing that you would just fail straight away if you're discovered, because you can attempt to run away. You know that you're teaching Echoes to run, but usually when you're discovered and attacked, the reset kicks in. So you have your 30 seconds. I think it's 30 seconds. So you're running away, maybe shoot somebody or not, but essentially trying to survive. Blackout comes, and there is another maybe 15 or 20 seconds before the power resets. If you manage to survive, all the Echoes reset, so they stop for a couple of seconds, so you have your time to hide. You hide yourself. They resurrect, and you can maybe plan a different way to approach your target. So sometimes you actually want to run instead of being stealthy, because you trigger your blackout and you know that it's coming. You're going to try and run through, maybe attract attention of 10 Echoes running behind you, but it's worth it. And sometimes you actually have to do it. Every stage is different, and some of them will favor more stealthy approach, some of them not so much. Some of them will have very open spaces. There is a sense of grandeur to the palace. Some of them will be very confined, but all of them will be beautiful beyond belief. Whoever designed those levels honestly, it's a work of art. But yeah, it's just, the game is very tense because you feel so fragile as a character, because your tools are limited, and it's the strategy, the way you approach the stages that matters. You do want to be careful, but you can be fast whenever opportunity arises. You want to be running around as much as possible, and if you've prepared yourself for it properly, you know your exit routes, because you're going to jump over, a ledge, whereas Echoes cannot do it. So sometimes it's not about stealth, it's actually about luring them somewhere and running away. And it's all about manipulating the palace into thinking that it knows how to kill you, whereas you have your way of outsmarting it. And this all ties into the actual lore of the game, because the reason why N is there is to... all the resourcefuls only exist to constantly improve themselves, because this is the way to achieve immortality, and this is what you're doing as well, I suppose. Anyway, I've not finished the game yet, but I'm probably going to do it tonight, so I will know what's the end game. But it's brilliant.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. Actually, I'm quite interested in it. Although it's 19 quid on Steam, 18.99.
I'm probably going to buy it on PS4 just to play it again on PS4.
Yeah. What, you any idea when it's coming out on consoles?
The date as such has not been announced apart for a month, which is going to be October.
Right, so it's very soon then.
Yeah.
Okay, right, that's cool. Alright, well that's Echo. That's by Ultra. That's all capital letters. Makes me want to shout it. That came out on the 19th of September. Thank you, Pawel.
Oof.
Right, Dave, we've got about 10 minutes.
10 minutes!
10 minutes, so let's talk about what we've been doing multiplayer-wise.
We've been playing Starbound by...
Is it Gigglefish or...
That's right, yeah, it's Chucklefish. How could I forget? It comes up every time you start the game. Yeah, so Starbound's a Terraria clone, I think is fair to say.
I think it is fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Which means it's a sort of 2D, side-on, pixel art, Minecraft type game. But you can play multiplayer, and what happens in Terraria is you kind of go around mining things, and you get blocks, and then you use them to build stuff. And then Chris shouts at you and says, you can't build that there, and you have to dismantle it.
Oh, this is Starbound, sorry.
What did I say?
You say Terraria, but
Oh, no.
I thought you were giving a background there, but no, you're
Sorry.
right. You're right. In Starbound.
Sorry, in Starbound, yes.
Yes,
sorry,
I do shout at you.
Yeah, and if you don't dismantle it, he just dismantles it for you.
Is this your general experience of playing with Chris?
To be fair, I haven't dismantled anything for you yet, but I have threatened to do it.
What about my barbed wire?
Oh, but that was just a nuisance. You put that in the worst place.
See?
So, is it more like a sci-fi version of
This game,
but similar to Terraria?
This game is not sci-fi.
Now, you played Terraria briefly, Euan.
I played it. I didn't get on with it too much.
I didn't get on with it at all.
I found it just it's fiddly. It's like you're playing. I remember because we started playing it around the time we were playing Minecraft and quite enjoying Minecraft, and I was like, why would I want to play this inferior version of Minecraft that's just fiddly and annoying to use?
Well, I just could not get into Terraria.
No.
And even though Starbound is pretty much the same thing, somehow Starbound's just infinitely more playable and infinitely more interesting.
Alright.
Like, there's just so much more stuff I feel you can do in it.
There seems to be a lot in Starbound. I think there's a lot that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Like one of the elements that they brought to it is the space. I mean, call it sci-fi space, whatever it is. There's a little bit of No Man's Sky in it, in that you're not just stuck on a single world.
Yeah.
When you start the game, what are you? You're like a member of the Terran Protectorate or something. You do a tutorial that teaches you how to use your matter manipulator, which is the little tool that you use to mine things, blocks. And then you can also place them, and you can use it for other things as well, like sucking up lava and then putting it in people's spaceships. And yeah, because that's what
By
happened.
people, he means me.
He just took it away.
Aww.
Because at the end of the tutorial, where you attend your graduation from the Terran Protectorate, and then something terrible happens, and you escape in your broken spaceship, and you've got nothing to do but beam down to the planet that you're orbiting and go exploring and make your way through the universe. So one of the first things you have to do is try and repair your spaceship so that it can move, and then you can go to all these different worlds. So you've got a whole procedurally generated universe that is unique to yourself.
Yep.
Everyone gets a different one, and there's all sorts of different planets that you can go to. They have different climates and weather, and each of them has their own animals that are... There's some procedurally generated animals. They look a little bit different wherever you go. Different trees.
So sounding very No Man's Sky-esque.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But it's more interesting, I suppose. I mean, No Man's Sky, the novelty wears off after a while when you realise that everything's just the fucking same anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, in Starbound, everything's kind of the same, but they've put a lot of attention to the detail, I think, in Starbound. like Dave says, all the trees are all different. There's all these different like crops that you can grow, all the items, and like there's so many different things in the game, and they all have their own little descriptions and all these. It just feels like there's a lot of attention and love being given to Starbound.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in it. You find a lot of these sort of somewhat procedurally generated instances of like villages or temples, and they all have all these different architectural styles, which you can then like dismantle with your matter manipulator and take back to your house so that you can have them in your house. I mean, you spend a lot of time doing that, going, "Oh, I like that. That's a cool table. I'm going to have that for my house."
The local aliens on the planet seem to have no problem with you going in and breaking down their furniture to take away.
They just, you're learning from their design.
Dave, I never told you actually. I stole a wheelbarrow and put it in next to your base, and one of your little guys is sleeping in it.
Oh yeah, you can sleep in this game, which you don't need to. It just kind of heals you, and also sort of pauses the game, in that it pauses your hunger, because you get hungry in this game as well for some reason. And there are so many cool beds. That's like finding new beds is like a big part of this game. I've got bunk beds in my house. They're pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, I saw your bunk beds. You got a lot of straw beds in your house, I noticed.
Yeah. Well, I like them because you sleep nude in those ones.
Oh well. And you've invited lots of people around, I've noticed. So yeah, you can get little people to come and stay with you. And what's the actual purpose of them? Because
I have no idea.
Because in Terraria, they all had some sort of purpose.
I don't
like
know.
the guys that would come and live with you. And that just kind of annoyed me in Terraria.
There may be one. I haven't got that far.
Yeah, maybe there is. But for some reason, you've got two people that seem to spend their entire time in my base rather than yours, sleeping in my bed. Which is why I made the wheelbarrow for them.
Chris's house is full of lockers.
I've got all this stuff.
It's very
I'm hoarding so much stuff.
Chris's house is like a big cube with lockers in the basement. My house is different.
Your house was pre-made.
I found they're actually quite common, these kind of ruined. Well, they're just ruins. I don't know what they were before, like little stone towers. So I kind of repurposed one of those and extended it and put a roof on it. And I mean there is a story, but we haven't progressed it hugely. So
very little, in fact.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean it's related to the event that happens in the tutorial, and I guess we're going to find out more about it. But we've spent a lot of time just exploring. We're just wandering about, and I imagine everyone, or most people who play the game probably do this as well, is that they spend a fair amount of time just like dicking about. I think it's fair to say, just to see all the various things, because there's a lot of things in this game, aren't there, Pavel? There's a lot of different. Like Pavel's watched us play a little bit, and there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. It does feel like it's a little bit disjointed. If you ask me, I don't fully understand why there is eating in this game, as in why there is survival element.
It's because you can make so many different types of food, Pavel.
I think that's all it is.
Just have the variety for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it now. Yeah, it does look very Terraria.
It is, but I mean, I think one of the things in Terraria, it's like Dave says, in Terraria, it was all just on one planet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the only way you could go was down. Really, you could only really go down through the earth and get into these different sort of biomes as you went down.
Yeah, because you can drill down in Starbound, and you will find slightly different things.
Yeah, it does change as you go further down.
But you don't have to.
Yeah, that's it.
You could also explore horizontally, as I like to call it.
Or if you get bored of the planet you're on, you can just go to a different planet, and it looks different.
And can you like leave constructions on some planet, go back to them and stuff like that, or is it more
everything you do just stays where it was?
That's quite cool. Yeah.
So, yeah, it just feels much more fun than Terraria, I would say.
Yeah.
Terraria I just got so bored of it so quickly. There was just a bit of tedium involved in it. Like you just felt like you weren't really doing very much anything. It's like when I was playing Terraria, I was like, I'll just go mining then because there's nothing else to do. So I was just going down and down and down and down, further and further and further, and then I'll come back up with a bunch of iron and go, well, that's not really enough iron to do the thing that I was wanting to do, so I'll just go back down again. But in Starbound, it feels like you can make bigger, you can make not big leaps, but you can make like lots of leaps quite quickly.
Yeah.
And you find much more in terms of weaponry and armour and stuff like that as well. Compared to Terraria, and there's much more variety in it as well. One of the first things I found was the sniper rifle, which was an interesting thing in the boss fight, the first boss fight you did.
Yeah. Yeah, it made it a lot easier.
But yes, Starbound, I mean, we're kind of running out of time here, but it's one of the 3 games that I'm playing right now, like I said at the start, that is just making me really happy. And like I say, they're 3 very different games, because you've got the Battle Royale thing in Fortnite, which is just running around shooting at people online, and you've got Starbound, which I find to be very relaxing, and just sort of reasonably fun, and Dave winds me up sometimes, but it's all just part of it.
Put lava in your boat.
Yeah, put lava on my boat, and then you've got Divinity, which is a much more sort of involved tactical RPG, very, very different games, but they're all just Starbound's my sort of, it's my happy place. It's just where I want to go if I want to just chill out, basically.
Starbound therapy.
Starbound therapy. I would recommend it to anybody.
What hat am I going to wear?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time we're going to play Starbound, before we start, I'm like, right, I need a new outfit for this.
So that Chris can go, what the fuck are you wearing, Dave? Right, we need to wrap up there. So that's Starbound. That's by Chucklefish. That originally came out early access last year in July. It is in full access now, isn't it? It's like full release. Sorry,
I think so, but
they're just
I think it's still under development, I believe.
Right, so that's episode 63. That's another video games episode done. We think we'll be back next week with a board games episode. We're not entirely sure yet.
It's going to be a close one.
It's going to be touch and go. We may have to delay it a week, but it happens. We've got busy lives, and Pawel's going to a Trossic or something.
It's going up one of them Trossics.
Right, so we will give out all our internet stuff. If you want to email us, it's firstplayertoken@gmail.com. That's FIRST. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. Those are all the larger than necessary First Player Token or First Player Token, all FIRST, with the exception of Twitter, which is @1ST Player Token.
Of course, once the player token.
Thank you, Euan.
Obviously.
Our website is firstplayertoken.com. We have a Discord, which is, again, discord.me/firstplayertoken. We have a PSN community if you want to find us there. My Twitch username is Unnecessary Chris if you want to watch me and Dave playing Starbound and various other things going on. I'm playing through the SNES version of Shadowrun at the moment as well.
I've seen you been at that.
So that's quite fun. And we are part of the Podnose Network,
UK's leading entertainment podcast network.
Any news, Euan?
I'm very tired.
Thank you very much. So, thanks for listening. We may be back next week, we may not, but until then, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.